Staring at the bank statement, disbelief coursed through my veins. 43 withdrawals. $80,000 vanished into the abyss, all fueling the facade of her lover's startup. My wife, my partner, my betrayer, an infidelity that slashed deeper than any dagger could ever pierce my heart. The email hit my inbox like a sucker punch, confirming that my wife, the woman I trusted beyond measure, was lying next to another man. But her betrayal didn't stop in their bed. It spilled over into our bank account. There it was, stark and undeniable. $80,000 gone, funneled into his half-baked startup. My disbelief twisted into a toxic cocktail of outrage and shame. How blind was I? All those late nights, forgotten kisses, her sudden obsession with budgeting. I sat there, the chill of the laptop screen reflecting back on my face, as a sinister clarity dawned. This wasn't a mere affair. It was a calculated con, and I was the clueless benefactor, unwittingly bankrolling the fantasies of her lover. The papers on the dining room table seemed to pulse, taunting me with each line item that simultaneously wounds and hardens my heart. Each statement is a scar, a blow that leaves me breathless and hot with a rage that's as unsettling as it is unfamiliar. The tiles beneath my feet feel cold and unsympathetic, grounding me in this harsh reality I never saw coming. My mind races, flashes of Lydia's face at the wedding altar, her laughter echoing in our kitchen, now tainted by these numbers that scream betrayal. I swallow against the nauseous churn in my stomach and reach for my phone. My hand trembles, the damn thing too slippery, too alien in my grip. I don't trust myself to speak calmly, but I have to know. I need her to explain, or at least try to. The columns and transactions that bleed our life's work and my sense of security dry. My finger dances over her name, hesitant for just a beat before I press down, sealing my decision. The dial tone buzzes in my ear, a funeral dirge that matches the cadence of my pulsing anger. She picks up on the third ring, and though her voice is unexpectedly soft, my own comes out jagged, ragged. How could you do this to us, Lydia? To me? The words spill out before I can catch them, sharp and accusatory. Like a dagger, I didn't realize I'd unsheath it. My heart races, each beat a mix of fear and accusation, a series of explosions beneath my ribs. I hear her inhale sharply. The pause stretches into an eternity, thick and suffocating. Her silence proclaims her guilt far louder than any admission ever could, and it's infuriating. You didn't just betray our marriage, you sold it out. I continue, feeling the tidal wave of bitterness overwhelm whatever quivering restraint was left. Her voice stumbles into the space between us. It's not what you think. Please, just let me. Not what I think. I interrupt, the disbelief catapulting me onto my feet. The chair screeches as it pushes back, adding a jarring physicality to my emotion. Then what is it, Lydia? Explain these statements, these credits to accounts I never knew existed. There's a breathless pause on the other end, and I can almost hear her calculating, the gears of guilt and justification grinding audibly through the line. It's complicated. Complicated. My voice echoes back at me in the suddenly cavernous space of the dining room. This isn't some abstract problem, Lydia. It's our lives. My trust. Her voice cracks, low and pleading now. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you, love. The irony of that word from her lips is a laceration upon my already frayed patience. My grip on the phone tightens, a lifeline turning into a noose. Then prove it. Her silence is colder than the tiles beneath me, and I realize I'm standing alone in a battlefield of silence, waiting for answers, while somewhere, Lydia hesitates between whatever truths or lies she may yet reveal. The room is a grenade, pin-pulled, seconds from explosion. Lydia stands inches away, her arms crossed tightly over her chest like armor. She doesn't flinch as my voice, sharp and serrated, slices through the heavy silence. I can feel the heat rising from my skin, fury crackling in my veins, a live wire. Her eyes meet mine, wide and defiant, matching the hard knot of determination I can see under her anger. She seems taller, straighter, as if my accusations buoy her rather than weigh her down. Our words overlap, crashing into each other, but it's her next words that pierce the fray, cutting me down. Don't act like this is only my sin. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to us and something other than numbers, we wouldn't be here. The air leaves the room, a vacuum of shock swallowing everything. Her words rattle around my head, slamming against the walls I've constructed to shield myself from the ugly truths I've avoided. I half expect to see blood blooming across my chest from where her words slice through me. I stagger back a pace, hands clenching into fists by my sides, the physical manifestation of an urge to do something. Anything. Whatever it takes to turn back time, to fix the fracture lines expanding between us. I try to speak, but my throat is tight, strangled by hurt. Words tumble from her, unrepentant, a flood of rationalizations that fill my mouth with ashes. Each syllable is a tiny explosion that echoes through every corner of my body. She talks about neglect and loneliness, about unfulfilled promises and empty spaces that yawn between us. I hear the accusations, the sharpness of her tongue. Oh, she's done me in, and I'm the fool for seeing it all too late. Lydia's resolve is frightening, a steely determination that refuses to bow or bend. Her voice doesn't quiver, not once. I can't help but admire her strength even as loathing fuels the fire in my belly. It's a tangled mess of admiration and anger and aching loss. You don't get to flip this on me, I manage, voice raw. It's not that simple, Lydia. It never was. The room shrinks into a boxing ring, the outcome bound to leave one of us beaten. Her silence is louder than any screaming match, and my desperation roars inside my head, a beast unfed and furious. She shakes her head, a cruel little smile curling her lips, and I can see it. Her decision not to regret, not to apologize. It cleaves through the last threads of hope I'd clung to. The room trembles with the weight of things unsaid as I watch her fortify herself with a last glance before turning toward the door. The click of the latch is a final punctuation mark, an exclamation of everything that's just been lost. The evening light slips through the windows like an uninvited guest, casting long shadows that creep across the floor. Alone again. Her absence lies thick in the air, a density of loss that presses down on me as I walk through what was once our shared life. I tread softly, as though she might still be here, lingering around a corner. The silence presses, a stifling reminder of her betrayal, echoing in this husk of our home. The living room smiles maliciously at me with its cozy armchairs and the old couch where we used to sit, entwined, watching movies and sharing secrets that I now know were never real. The coffee table, cluttered with past coffee stains and once shared laughter, stands like an altar to happier times, now revealed as a stage set for her deceit. I can almost hear the soft ripple of her laughter, but it dissolves into the silence, leaving only the mockery of empty promises. Every photo stares back with wide-eyed innocence, snapshots of moments that, at the time, glowed with the heat of something genuine. But now, they just glare with accusatory eyes, each image a shard of glass tearing through the fabric of my understanding. I'm left wondering, did moments like when we stood by the ocean, wind in our hair, truly mean the same to her? Or was she just weaving a different web? The kitchen feels oppressive, the clatter of forgotten meals resonating through the walls. The place where we built so much of us, where flour-dusted countertops spoke of mornings spent in comfortable silence, are now scream with the echo of a hapless fool, oblivious to the knife she held behind her back. I stop by the bedroom door, hesitant, feeling the weight of all that transpired. I push it open and step inside. The bed lies unmade, sheets twisted in disarray, a remnant of nights tangled with whispers of forever. But forever didn't belong to us. I remember how we'd curl into each other here, safe from the world. Did any of it ever anchor her, or was she merely drifting through my affections while tethered elsewhere inside her secret? My lungs burn with the effort of breathing, and I lean against the wall for support. A sob catches in my throat, hardened by the realization. It's as if every room I cross drags me further into despair, each step a deepening into solitude that clangs loudly against the muted echoes of our once shared existence. Now, nothing remains but this hollow detachment towards what was supposed to be ours. Each corner, each angle in this house, cradles the spectral remains of our past life. I flick off the light and retreat, my footsteps resounding in a hollow affirmation. Nothing here is truly mine anymore. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my phone like a lifeline. The room felt smaller today, as if the walls themselves were whispering the ugly truth. I had already scrolled through the contacts list, The names of friends now shadows of trust. They all must have known, or at least suspected. My fingers hesitated over a name, a relic of what we used to be. A mutual friend, someone who might still have some remnant of loyalty to me. As I pressed call, my heart thudded with an insistent rhythm. Ethan's voice crackled through, familiar but distant. "Hey, it's been a while." "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to know something." I chose my words carefully, afraid of breaking an unspoken spell. "Did you hear anything about me?" There was silence, the kind you can almost hear, heavy with the weight of unspoken words, of things left unsaid for far too long. Ethan paused, as if considering how much truth to unleash. I heard some things," he finally confessed, his voice barely above a murmur. A cold knot formed in my stomach, anchoring me to this awful moment. "Like what? Tell me." He exhaled heavily, as if he were blowing away the dust covering old secrets. "There were whispers, rumors. People said you didn't see what was happening." The humiliation stung like ice, a reminder of every mirthless laugh, every sidelong glance I'd ignored. They all knew, didn't they? I was the last to see the Emperor had no clothes. Ethan's silence was an answer more damning than any words could be. I leaned back, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me, pushing me further into isolation. "So what does that mean for us, Ethan? Are we still friends?" He hesitated again, another nail in the coffin of our once solid bond. "I don't know, man. Things are complicated now." Complicated. The worst kind of betrayal isn't the obvious, sharp kind. It's the slow, seeping betrayal that comes from those closest to you gradually deciding you're dispensable. "Right," I replied, my voice hollow. "Complicated." After the call ended, I sat in silence, the air around me thick with the whispers of a fractured circle. Every text notification felt like a bullet, each silence louder than any conversation we might have had. The betrayal became a living thing in the room, breathing its toxic breath down my neck. I looked at the contacts list again, scrolling mindlessly, names blurring into faces, into accusations. The solidarity that I thought glued us was peeling away, leaving me bare and alone. The isolation gnawed at me, relentless and unyielding, like a shadow that refused to retreat. Desperate for any kind of break in this solitary confinement, I threw on my jacket. Maybe a walk would clear my thoughts, or at least silence the cacophony of betrayal, if only for a moment. I sat at the kitchen table, the warm glow of the laptop reflected in the dark room. Those late-night hours had turned into my companion, stirring my vigil, as if the truth only whispered when the world was asleep. I typed his name again, my fingers dancing on the keyboard with the same hesitant determination of a diver on the edge of a cliff. The search results flickered to life, revealing the digital shadows of a man hiding under layers of deceit. Each link I clicked became a rabbit hole of unsettling discoveries. His profile picture belied nothing but charm, the wide smile of assurance, eyes that seemed to promise secrets beyond the mundane. But past the curated facade, the truth unraveled. A grainy forum image caught my eye, a candid shot of him outside a pawn shop, far from her romanticized tales of garden restaurants and rooftop evenings. I leaned closer, the room around me dissolving into mere backdrop. The message boards buzzed with stories, anecdotes of other lives intersected and maimed by his charm. "He's not the hero of her dreams," one comment read, "but a con artist, spinning fantasies while robbing unaware hearts and wallets." My chest tightened, anger animating my every nerve, the kind that felt like a lashing tide threatening to drown me. I almost heard his voice, the smooth cadence he'd used to convince her. A cold shiver ran down my spine. My thoughts raced backward to every overlooked detail, every dismissed intuition. That extravagant gift he'd claimed came from business. The mismatched stories. Anxiety twisting inside me, my breath shallow, as each piece fit too smoothly into the jigsaw of deception he'd crafted. I shifted in my chair, the scraping of wood harsh against the tiled floor, grounding me in this moment. Navigating the twisted architecture of his scams was an anchor amidst my emotional tempest. The resolve crystallized with every frantic heartbeat. I couldn't let her continue to drift in this mausoleum of illusions. My phone buzzed, an intrusion of reality lighting up with her name. Hesitation gripped me. Opening that message should come with a warning label, as it could either be the key to liberation or another layer lock. "Can't sleep," she wrote, the words pooling with vulnerability and an unknowing betrayal. Her betrayal, unwittingly directed at both me and herself. For an instant, I hesitated, hovering between the urge to shatter her illusions and the bittersweetness of protecting her heart for one more night. But clarity emerged, swift and unwavering. This line between continuing to watch her fall and catching her mid-descent. The wooden chair creaked as I stood, resolution pushing my shoulder blades tight against my skin. I knew now that the truth was no longer my burden alone to bear. Liberation, for her and myself, loomed ahead in the form of inevitable confrontation. And like a kite string slipping through desperate fingers, the last fragile threads of his deception started to unravel in my mind. The fluorescent lights of his office flickered ever so slightly, casting a cold, mechanical glow on everything. I stood there, holding a rage that was calculated, almost businesslike. His desk, meticulously organized, mirrored the way he liked to keep his life, or at least the parts he let people see. But I wasn't just anybody. I leaned over, hands gripping the edges of the desk hard enough that my knuckles turned white. "Did you enjoy playing the knight in shining armor while raiding our accounts?" My voice cut through the silence, a blade honed by betrayal and disbelief. Each word landed heavily, with purpose. He looked up from the papers he pretended to be so engrossed in, surprise momentarily cracking the facade of professionalism he wore like a second skin. The mask slipped away, revealing glimpses of anxiety, then annoyance. "Let's not do this here," he replied, trying to keep his voice even. But there was a tremor beneath his words, a hint of the chaos swirling underneath his practiced exterior. "No, we'll do this right here," I insisted, refusing to budge, both physically and emotionally. I could feel the anger burning in my chest, a relentless force demanding acknowledgement, demanding an explanation. "You've made enough decisions on how things are done. It's my turn." He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the tiled floor. The noise scratched across my senses, sharp and jarring. "What exactly do you want from me?" His eyes, usually so disarmingly charming, were now narrow and harsh, shadows lurking at their edges. "I want the truth," I declared, my voice steady, though my heart was a drumbeat of fury and vulnerability. "I need to know why you and Lydia thought you could script my life without me noticing. Why you thought this could shatter me." His silence screamed more truth than any confession he might have uttered. For a moment, the only sound was the muted hum of office machinery, a background symphony of modern industry and my frustration. "You weren't supposed to find out. Not like this," he finally said, though there was no apology in his voice, only regret for the poorly executed plan. "This isn't about just finding out," I replied, leaning even closer. "This is about you thinking you could manipulate and deceive without repercussions. This is about you underestimating me." He shifted uneasily, every movement betraying his internal calculation of risk versus reward, as if trying to figure out which line might save him now. But there was no safety here, no escape from the truth that had clawed its way to the surface. I stood back, crossing my arms, feeling stronger than I had moments before. "Feel the weight of what you've done. Understand that from this point on, you're accountable." The last word hung heavily between us, a silent vow. As I turned to leave, I carried with me a burgeoning sense of clarity, a whisper of liberation that had begun to thread through the chaos. The lawyer's office feels sterile, the scent of polished wood and leather binding cloying in the air. Everything here is orderly, unlike the chaos in my chest. There's a divorce pamphlet staring back at me from the coffee table, its cover glossy and too cheerful, declaring new beginnings like it's a damn call to arms. I rub my thumb over its edge, feeling the sharpness. Somehow, this matters now, the way paper can sting flesh. She enters, her movements precise, clinical. She introduces herself with a name I forget as soon as I hear it. Her eyes hold a practiced empathy, but it barely touches her facade. I nod, not trusting my voice in this place of thin comfort. We sit across from each other, a wooden desk our battlefield, a list of grievances sheathed in manila folders her weapons of choice. "So," she starts, her pen poised, "we'll begin with assets. Simple, detached." I watch her mouth move, but the words echo strange and foreign. It's the vocabulary of an ending I never wanted to learn. Her questions fall into my lap like stones, and I'm collecting each one, heavier than the last. We owned a house, I say, my voice barely a whisper, as if speaking louder might implode this fragile reality. Car, joint account. Familiar things, now dissected, weighed, and measured. It's not just money. It's everything we built, now fractured and parceled out by law. Custody arrangements, she asks, flipping pages with a sound as final and irrevocable as a door slamming shut. No children, I reply, with a warmthless kind of relief mixed with ache. We were going to try once. Now, the very thought feels obscene, garish in its sentiment. She's efficient, and I find a comfort in her brusque detachment. It makes it easier, focusing on numbers, deeds, papers and signed rather than the gaping void where love used to be. Yet, amidst this unwelcome transaction, I feel a stirring pride. Each pen stroke, each decision solidifies a reclaiming of sorts. I am dismantling the past, one legal term at a time. We're going to proceed with the dissolution petition, she says, breaking the silence. Words like dissolution, consequence, settlement. These words become scaffolding, a spirited chorus on which I might one day rebuild. There's a finality in her gaze, a hint of encouragement. You're doing the right thing, she says, her voice softened by whatever quiet understanding she can offer. I nod again, and there's a twinge in that movement, a muscle finding itself reconfigured. I rise, the chairs scrape against the floor echoing with a readiness I didn't expect. Memories cascade through me, shared mornings, moments carved into my bones. And yet they're suddenly spectral, fading with each step I take towards the door. Outside, the sky stretches wide, indifferent to my small salvation. I inhale deeply, feeling the cold crispness fill my lungs. Here, beneath this expansive blue, is where I begin to author a life anew, forged not from the remnants of us, but from the seeds of myself. I've grown used to staring into the darkness, the relentless ticking of the clock a cruel kind of lullaby. Its rhythm syncs with my pulse, a steady reminder that time moves forward even if I feel stuck in place. Tonight isn't any different, a heavy blanket of silence covering the room, pressing down on me with the weight of every decision that led me here. I wish I could say I don't know where it all went wrong, but maybe I do. There's a whisper of truth I've been pushing away, scared to name it. Sitting here, it's hard not to confront it head-on. The stillness strips away my defenses. I didn't just lose $80,000. I lost sight of who we were, maybe even who I was. It's suffocating, the realization that I've been lying to myself, saying we were okay, convincing myself that we were immune to the pitfalls that capture everyone else. But deep inside, doubts nagged at me, small and insistent. I ignored them, brushing off the unease with the kind of arrogance that only disaster brings clear. Layers of self-deception like armor worn comfortably until it constricts, choking off the air. Images flash behind closed eyelids, a montage of moments previously unseen, or rather unwilling to be seen. Me, dismissing the discord in her voice when she asked about the finances. The forced smiles we exchanged, grimaces really if I'm honest now. There was a time when we shared everything, when the world felt manageable because we faced it together. I couldn't pinpoint when, but somewhere along the way, I started acting like I had all the answers. I missed the moment my confidence turned to blindness. The clock shifts its tune, seemingly mocking my inability to recapture those lost times. I've let something invaluable slip through my fingers, something more precious than any currency. We were supposed to be unbreakable, but cracks form where I've placed my weight in the wrong places, ignoring faults, refusing to read the signs when they were nothing more than shadows in the afternoon light. There's a twisted solace in acknowledging my part in this unraveling. It hurts, burns even, peeling back these layers of self-deception. But within the ache, I think I glimpse something beyond the wreckage. I want to believe it's hope, flickering, timid, yet defiantly glowing in the darkness that still surrounds me. In accepting the bitter truth, maybe there's room to forge something new from what's left, to sift through the ashes, finding pieces of worth to rebuild what's fallen. But I'm left here in this moment, silence descending again as the clock continues its ceaseless march forward. It's time to confront the past and make sense of it, to find a way ahead. A journey that starts with the next breath, the next heartbeat. In this, there might lie an acknowledgement, a first step, awkward and uncertain, yet unmistakably heading toward light. Damp air clings to my skin as I walk the narrow path, each step stirring memories like dried leaves. The park stretches before me, transformed by the passing seasons, but oddly the same. I'm not sure what pulled me back here. Maybe it's the whisper of familiarity or the need to stitch closure into the wound Lydia left behind. The bench where we sat so often comes into view, its paint peeling but sturdy enough to bear the weight of this moment. I collapse onto it, the wood cold through my jeans. A gentle breeze carries the scent of earth and the distant giggles of children too young to understand endings. I close my eyes, letting the park compress time, pulling threads of past laughter and unspoken words into a tight knot in my chest. Through the murmur of rustling leaves, Lydia's voice echoes, buoyant and full of plans we never quite realized. I remember the day we etched our initials into the tree beside me. The bark was rough against my fingers, and the promise seemed carved in more than wood, something I believed was unwavering. Now, though, the marks are faded, edges softened with time as if the tree itself is trying to forget us. "Goodbye, Lydia," I whisper, the words sticking in my throat before slipping free. There's no bitterness, just a soft resignation. I guess we were never really meant to last. Or maybe it's just that I finally learned what lasting really means. A slight looseness expands in my chest. As much as I've mourned the end of us, there's a sense of growth here, an inkling that perhaps surviving the storm has not left me broken but reshaped. I open my eyes, stare up at a sky shifting from gray to a subdued blue, like an artist hesitant with the first strokes of dawn. Birdsong punctuates the quiet, a playful siren call reminding me I'm still here, still capable of feeling the sunlight that fights to break through the cloud cover. As if sensing my resolve, the sun paints shadows across the grass, brushing hints of warmth along my outstretched hand. Lost in this tender moment, I notice a family nearby, a toddler learning to walk with faltering steps. The child's wild laughter cuts through the air, unburdened by the complexities that weigh adults down. There's something beautiful in his struggle and the certainty that follows each fall. He reminds me of everything I've learned to rebuild in myself. I rise from the bench, brushing grit from my jeans, leaving no traces behind. The park becomes an arena of new beginnings rather than expired dreams. It feels different now, less haunted, more open. I take a breath, savoring the clarity, and venture towards the path ahead. Having finally said goodbye, the steps feel lighter, as though they lead somewhere promising, crafted anew from yesterday's ruins.